The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Wasim Al-Sindi from OX Salon,
Hello, everybody.
Josh Shigala from thestandard.io,
Well, it's an absolute pleasure once again.
Ben Ark from LN Bits,
Good evening, all. Happy Friday.
and I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to Issue 1. Issue 1. Formerly President Donald Trump, now 34 times convicted felon, says that he'll commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht after speaking at the Libertarian Convention. The MAGA Trumpers attempted to force the Libertarians out of their own convention, but were unsuccessful, leaving the room full of constant booing. Trump even going heel at one point, being angry at the audience, claiming, "If you're happy with your 3%, go ahead, you losers. Be happy with your 3%. But along the way, he did claim that he would accept Bitcoin, put libertarians in his cabinet, and free Ross Ulbricht, something that he could have done all 4 years while he was president. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is also reaching out to the Bitcoin and crypto industry, as we may have, according to Bitcoin Magazine, the first Bitcoin election, if you will. Wasim Al-Sindi, what do you think of Trump and his empty promises to a booing room at the Libertarian Convention?
I mean, like it's Donald Trump, right? So you should be used to empty promises by now. We know how this goes. We've already been on this ride once before. So I thought it was more interesting that I feel like Trump himself and the kind of MAGA whatever movement around him, that is pretty known quantity. You don't get too many surprises from it, really. My instinct is to look on the other side, like, what were the libertarians thinking doing this? And I guess it's that kind of classic two-party system, third-party bind, where you've got to do something. Otherwise, you lose by not doing anything. Probably others know more about this than I do, but I also remember hearing something about the Libertarian presidential candidate. The selection of the candidate in the party was also extremely disrupted and weird. And I assume that also happened at this convention. So I would love for somebody to tell us more about that. But yeah, this idea of the whatever Bitcoin election, crypto election, these topics also going around let's say the other circles around Web3, there's the big capitulation on the Ethereum ETF. My old colleague from MIT, Gary Gensler, seems to be very, very quiet at the moment. Somebody whispered in his ear, told him to change how he behaves. It seems like the deep-pocketed folks in the coastal cities in America like crypto, and they could have control and influence over stuff that happens in DC now.
It was interesting, the nominating of the Libertarian presidential candidate that happened the day after Trump and RFK Jr.'s speech. I think that it went largely Libertarian. I think Trump got maybe 6 votes on the first ballot, so not a good showing for the ex-president. And RFK didn't do much better, maybe 15 votes or so, with the Libertarian candidate coming in and naturally scooping it up. It was a big deal for the Libertarians to have the former president speaking at their convention. I think it's the first time that another party's candidate had spoken at another party's convention. So it was very irregular. And as I mentioned in the introduction, first there was a mini revolt by the Libertarians using Robert's Rules of Orders, where they attempted to tell Trump to go F himself. Then there was a in-physical revolt where the Trumpists lined up 3 hours early, attempting to take the front rows of seats from the Libertarian delegates at their own convention. The Libertarians got upset, started live streaming this, started politely explaining to the people how this was their convention and they were here to see the speeches at their convention, this leading to the boos. I can tell you the mainstream reporting on this was all about the boos and that President Trump finally spoke to a more fair audience that isn't just made up of his supporters where he can control everything. However, it has been a little scary here in the Bitcoin type libertarian area. I had a poll on the Mad Bitcoins Twitter, about 50 votes, not that many, but it was 60-40. People said they would vote for Trump on this single issue. So obviously it's incredibly dangerous to free one man, but to lose freedom for lots of other people, as well as the other political issues. You can't really decide just on one person like this. It's very simplistic. And as well as I said in the intro, Trump could have done this the whole time he was president. He could have supported Bitcoin. He could have freed Ross. Towards the end, I've heard he even did think about it. But I do think before I forgive this to Josh, we have to give lots of credit to David Bailey and whoever else did the work inside the Libertarian Convention to convince people that the number one issue to libertarians is the freedom of Ross Ulbricht. There's apparently nothing else. Taxation, all these other things, not as important as freeing this one guy. And they were successful in bringing that to light and bringing that to Trump's team. And if you think he was pandering and serving up a bunch of, good things to make you feel good, like how he likes guns and he likes being free, especially when he's accused of committing crimes and yesterday convicted of committing crimes, it just seemed like a big pander to me. And I'd see right through it, even if it was a different candidate that I didn't loathe. Josh Shigala, what do you think about Trump speaking to the Libertarian Convention and promising them everything they've ever wanted, apparently?
Yeah, it's hilarious. Like I was laughing at the libertarians. They're so rowdy, like they just don't care. It's so funny because you listen to a normal Trump rally, it's just always yeah. And the vibe is really kind of quite catching at these things. You think, wow, but at the Libertarian Convention, so boo, ah, boo, like, it really is like a bunch of I don't know, drunk Brits at a football match. It was amazing. I mean, look, you can say whatever you want about lies or whatever, but that's what politicians do. That's what they all do. They're all the same. They all try to give you a promise, and then sometimes they stick to them. Sometimes they don't. You don't know. You can't just say it would be a lie. I have got it under pretty good authority from Lynn Ulbricht herself that Trump was like weeks away or days away from pardoning him last time, and then the whatever the indictment came where they tried to grab him on that, so he was focused on that, and then he got kicked out, or January 6th happened. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, my hope is that he would. I think that's probably his best chance because it's not the Democrats don't even murmur Ross's name, and it was Chuck Schumer that famously put him in there with this ridiculous, absolutely ludicrous sentence. But yeah, who knows? I think it was funny. I think it was quite amazing to see. And we all know these sort of anarchist types and how like they just don't care. They just say it how it is, which I appreciate about the space. If any of you guys have ever been, any of the viewers here, which I'm sure they have, to some sorry, my dogs are fighting over some sort of treat here. If they've been to one of these things, it's uncontrollable. Like it's out. You can never really tame them. It's hard. So Trump got a taste of the Libertarian Party, I guess.
Yes, there's litter everywhere, and they all have guns. I can't wait till they're in charge. But I agree, Josh, it was quite a statement by the Libertarians at their convention to boo and be rowdy and get this chance. But I really think for the mainstream, the way that people view Ross Ulbricht is more like Tony Montana or whatever from Scarface as a big gangster. And they see him on the boat with the machine guns and the selling the drugs personally. And although we on the Bitcoin group and other Bitcoiners know that's not true, he's much more like a kid running a website than a big gangster. the outside world sees him as a gangster. So I find it very hard to believe that Trump was actually going to pardon him. I think he got close, but we have to say, was he totally done with politics? If he was totally done with politics, then he could pardon him, because you're essentially pardoning a huge drug dealer. It's going to look really bad in the wider press, regardless of the libertarian or Bitcoin press. And it did have a weird feeling, Josh, the speech. I thought it was kind of like a high school speech where Trump was coming in and lecturing the libertarians about why they should vote for him and kind of leaning on them. And then he kind of lost it at that point where he went like WWF heel. And he was like, "Are you happy with your 3%?" And it was the kind of thing, I think, Josh, we've had this discussion ourselves, but not in a negative way in a public space, the way that Trump did. And you can't insult people that you're trying to get to vote for. You can't be like, "Come on, libertarians, join me with your measly, lousy 3% that gets you nothing."
Yeah, I
But
thought it was a strange tactic, but at the same time, he's right. Like the libertarians have always had hardly anything, hardly anything in terms of representation. And some of the policies that he did have, and he was very much right in that too, were libertarian leaning. And that's why I think he appeals to a lot of people in the Bitcoin space, because there are, I mean, the whole started no new wars and stuff like that is right down the libertarians' alley for sure.
I do think he's right about the 3% and how they get nothing, but I don't think he's right in the way he communicated it. I think if you tell someone that to their face, they're going to tell you to go F yourself. And especially if you're coming in as the larger outside force, he's the nominee of a major party. They're this little third string party. I don't think it was part of the plan. I think he went off
I mean, he
script.
said before that he didn't want to be a Republican Party. He would have just run on his, but he would never have gotten in. So he had to, and it's the same with some other people like Ron Paul running as a Republican, because it's just no point running on a different ticket.
Yeah, you have to have the support of the two parties. They have the fundraising, they have the backbone. You really can't do it. The ballot access, things like that. Ben Ark, what do you think of the former president, now 34-time guilty, convicted felon, speech about the old Bitcoin and Ross Ulbricht there? He might be joining him in the cell soon. They might consult on how to make brandy wine in the toilet or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've just become a special interest group, Bitcoin as a whole. Like, if you think about where we are now compared to where we were 4 years ago, the reason that he didn't, pander to the sort of things Bitcoiners like, such as releasing or pardoning Russ Ulbricht and then also accepting Bitcoin and being a bit more pro-Bitcoin, is because 4 years ago we were much more of a guppy than we are now, and now there's significant liquidity in Bitcoin and a lot more big players in the space. And I think it's to be expected that we'll see this more across the board, that there'll be politicians talking about Bitcoin, especially when, they through the lens of the CBDC debate, which I think most people don't like the idea of. And Bitcoin seems like an obvious free and open source alternative to some sort of CBDC thing. So yeah, it's been 4 years. That's a long time. Like, it was 2020. Like, we were a much smaller community then, and Bitcoin wasn't as influential as it is now. And 3% may not sound like a lot, but in a close election, it is a lot. And there's certain, a bunch of synergy between some of Trump's policies, and then also between what libertarians want, such as less regulation, and yeah, whatever else. So I could imagine him capturing quite a lot of the libertarian vote, and the fact that they applauded for minutes after the Russ Ulbricht announcement, or whether he'll go through with what he says, because as we have all learned over the years that politicians say a lot before they get elected, and then once they get elected, they don't do the things, because actually there are more mechanics in politics than just one person, which is a good thing. So whether he can, I don't know. And there might be a lot of backlash from. I mean, he's pandering to an audience, so he can say that he's going to release Russ Ulbricht, and then maybe he could do it in such a way that it doesn't cause too much controversy. He has served 11 years. And I think the real sticking point on the Ross Ulbricht thing is there's been a lot of documentaries and literature, and general populace is interested in the subject and has learned quite a lot about the subject. And there's a fair amount of evidence that he did try and kill Chronic Pain, the administrator, and that's shady. So yeah, but it is possible, that he could grant clemency to Ross Ulbricht and have him released, or as what was it, as time served or whatever. So yeah, it's I can imagine him winning over a lot of libertarians, and then within his own supporters, there's a lot of Bitcoiners. Look at the Canadian truckers and whoever else. I don't know, they're Canadians, so they can't vote, but that ilk of person across the pond in the US, and they like Bitcoin, they like Trump. You just had to look through the comments on the Twitter post, and there was a lot of Bitcoiners in there applauding Trump mentioning Bitcoin and talking about accepting Bitcoin donations. It was crypto, and I think a lot of Bitcoiners are skimming over that fact. But yeah, so I think it's a. I mean, I don't like the guy, but I think it's a good move on his part to try and win over the libertarians. And I know that he didn't to begin with by saying, "Oh, you're measly 3%. Where will it get you?" That was just within the first few minutes of his 40-minute speech. But 30 minutes in, he read the audience, and then he pulled out the Ross Ulbricht card and got applause for many minutes. And I'm sure that's what everyone will remember and walk away with. So yeah.
I think it's a nice dream, but I don't think there's any realistic way that he could free him. If you want to think about it just for a sec as a thought experiment, 3% of your audience is libertarians. You make that 3% happy. 97% of your audience, let's say they're Republicans, let's say half of them are the old guard of law and order Republicans who used to believe in law and order, and they wanted drug dealers busted and they want them arrested and so forth. And he's going to come out there and say, I just freed the world's biggest drug dealer. I think you would cut off half your audience to gain 3%. I don't think that strategically, tactically, you could do it.
Now,
even if you wanted to. Go ahead, Ben.
The real important one is free Assange, because that has real geopolitical impact around the world. If a non-US citizen can be charged on treason, it just means that anyone can be extradited to any country for treason, even if they're not a citizen of that country. And it's absolutely terrible for the free press. So free Assange, maybe this is the first step. I mean, if he frees Ross Ulbricht, people will say, well, what about this Assange guy? What did he do? Blah, blah, blah. Let's see.
I think that's exactly why it would be even harder to free Assange, is people don't even really understand what he did. He got some information, he published it, he shaped the information. WikiLeaks changed. It's not just publishing stuff, it's now waiting till it's the worst time for the political candidate they dislike, which is a bit of a targeted thing. Almost seems like a Russian agent. But I think that's a whole nother bag of things we don't want to get into. And as we were saying, we didn't talk about it much, but the Democrats have woken up to this issue. There will be envoys from Biden and so forth. They're not all going to be Elizabeth Warren. As Ben said, Bitcoin's grown up, and we're worth both sides talking to us. Like, there are going to be lobbyists. There's going to be people arguing on both sides of the political spectrum for Bitcoin. But I do think we'd be better off with a group of centrist people arguing for us rather than far right or far left. I think we would get more people. But let's move on to the exit question. What would Ross do? You're in a cell. They've promised to free you. The promise is a little shaky, comes from a con man, a 34 times convicted con man, and it also might destroy the world. So do you want your freedom in exchange for destroying the world? What would Ross Ulbricht do? And a little bit as well as, what would you do? Wasim, what do you think Ross will do? And what would you do if you were in the cell, but you were offered to be freed by a morally questionable individual?
I guess it all depends. I know what, I can speak for myself, but I find it harder to put myself inside Ross's mind. So I guess it's about the extent to which, we feel compassion to another. So I would like to believe in the best of all possible worlds. Sometimes doesn't feel like we're living in it right now. But I would like to believe in the best of all possible worlds. So I will opt for the altruistic option in both cases.
Josh Shigala, what will Ross do? What would he do?
He'll sit there like he is rotting away. I mean, it's just what you do. Like, you have to keep on living in a stoic um, hope. That I guess even having hope is not stoic. So, um, trying to just survive and having this slight glimmer of hope in the future that maybe something will happen. I mean, you do never know, and usually a pardon will happen right at the end of a political sitting. So yeah, it'd probably be at least another 4 years if Trump gets in and manages that pardon. But at least it's a little bit of hope. And I know that when I talked to Lynn about it, she was really upset because they were, she was told that he would, and then he got removed out of the White House before, and so, but it was really quite a powerful thing for me to see her just say, I said, well, what are you going to do? And she goes, well, I just get up out of bed and I keep going. And that's just an amazing thing, an amazing woman doing that for her son. So yeah. But yeah, Assange also, let's hope that maybe the Australian government can stop being such a bunch of cowardly um, fools and allow this persecution of of somebody that's whether you think it's political or not, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's what journalists do. They expose things, and it's really important that they are allowed to expose things because that's pretty much the kingpin of democracy of the people having power is having the knowledge to that is exposed from people willing to expose things that are inconvenient to hear. Whether it doesn't matter the timing, it doesn't matter at the timing at all. The important thing is, hey, there was an event, we reported on it, we hid the sources for a while, um, as much as possible, and now you know the information. And this is unbelievable that we're still sitting here with a guy in prison for showing literal war crimes uh, from drone strikes that should put us all a little bit fearful on the fearful footing. I mean, the fact that the guy is sitting in prison and not everybody isn't totally up in arms about it is out of control, and it came with this nonsense charge of these girls in Sweden saying that yeah, anyway, we all know the story. So yeah, sit there.
I think Josh is definitely right that pardons come at the end of the term. So even if Trump were to be honest and truthful about this pardon, you would have to wait another 3 to 4 years to get it. And like you said with Lynn, you could be promised it at the last moment and then have it pulled back for some reason. So it's a very tenuous agreement you have here. It's not the kind of thing you can put in the bank. Ben, Ark, what do you think? What would Ross do?
What in prison? I mean, you just want to be free, don't you? Being in prison sucks. You don't care who lets you out, And then I suppose you imagine that you can do greater good if you're out. Would be interesting to see him to see whether he engages. The Bitcoin community and the libertarian community fought so hard and be so vocal about trying to get the guy released. It'd be interesting to see whether prison has changed him much. From what I can tell, I don't think it has. I think he still very much believes in what he believed in before. But yeah. I don't know. I mean, 11 years is a long time, and it's probably an excusable amount of time to have him released. It was kind of like, make an example of this guy, put him in jail, throw away the key. As similarly as they're trying to do with Assange on those trumped up charges, which have all been dropped, by the way. Now it's just treason charges they're trying to charge Assange for, which is insane. But yeah, you wouldn't care. You just want to be out of prison.
See, that's where I get romantic. I want Ross to sit there and say, and maybe to write a big angry letter in the old DPR style that we haven't heard from in years, and whose autobiography I would love to read. DPR, not Ross Ulbricht, DPR. I want to hear the real autobiography. But I'd love him to say, even though you would set me free, you would jail everyone else, and I can't have that. and that noble stand from prison, even though we don't even think this is a fair offer, that this would actually happen, and all of those things, you'd get taken for that as well. But I do agree, Ben, 11 years is a long time in prison. He probably just wants anybody to let him out. But still, what good is it to be let out if the entire world burns after you're let out? So it's a bit of a tough decision even there, even if you are the one locked in prison. Moving on to issue 2. Issue 2, Greenpeace begins to change their mind. As predicted on this show, Greenpeace went way too far when they attacked Bitcoin, saying that it would destroy the environment and that it was a horrible monster represented by this green skull with flaming eyes and toxic chemicals behind it. Bitcoin truly the worst thing in the world. Now, according to leaks within Greenpeace, they're changing their minds, saying that it's damaging the Greenpeace brand and that there are bigger issues to fight and that Bitcoin could be even a positive force for counteracting climate change, as we've said on this show for decades now. Josh Shigala, what do you think about Greenpeace starting to wake up and see the realities that Bitcoin might not be so bad, even might be good for them?
Well, it's fascinating that they use the word sexed up, just like Tony Blair's dossiers. But yeah, no shit. Like, what do you? The fact of the matter is that they just never really did any research, because all of the miners that I know basically are constantly on the search for cheaper and cheaper electricity that isn't government subsidized, because as soon as it's government subsidized, and that's the reason why it's cheap, it will be rug pulled from underneath you very, very quickly, because governments don't like to subsidize something that is not benefiting them directly. And we see this everywhere. There's examples of this everywhere, where these miners will use, specifically in more socialist countries where electricity is very, 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 very cheap because it's all been subsidized. As soon as the miners, they're finding out, why is this electricity being used so much, and they come in and just basically shut it down. Because when you're subsidizing something, you're actually distorting the market. You're removing the scarcity. So you're not allowed, you're not giving price as a scarcity metric to the consumer, and so the consumer will just use way too much of it because they don't realize the price. And so when you have a true free market, you have to actually find cheap energy. And what's cheaper than water falling down a cliff or heat coming from under the earth? So miners are very, very active in finding renewables, and there he goes. Well, I think we are still streaming. Yep,
Are we
We're
still
still going.
streaming?
I'm the host now, apparently. So we're still. I
You
think
are.
we still go. I don't know. I think we still are.
Yeah. What's your opinion on that?
Okay. So like, there's the old chestnut of like Bitcoin mining good for the environment, Bitcoin mining bad for the environment. In reality, I don't think we actually know. It's like the planet looks like it's on a tipping point right now. If you look at air and sea temperature data. And so even if the amount of energy that Bitcoin uses now, relative to the overall energy consumption of everyone on the planet, and whether a lot of that is green or not, that may not matter. It may, because we're in this delicate moment, a small change might make a big difference. We just don't know. So I find it hard to make directional statements on either side. I thought everything what you said, Josh, makes a lot of sense. One thing I will add, though, is that there is a new energy source on the block emerging, especially for kind of like computationally intensive bits and bobs, and that is a small-scale uranium nuclear fission power. So, we've been hearing people talk about, small-scale nuclear reactors, and then that's been 20 years away. Well, big tech companies are now signing contracts for power delivery in the near future from small-scale nuclear plants they're getting built. A relative of a friend works on those in America. He's got
What's small scale, like battery scale?
This is more like a municipal scale, let's say, or it might be like you build a nuclear power plant to power a data center or a data center, like a enterprise campus, basically.
Mm.
You
Like a
might build one to-
submarine, like a
Yeah,
nuclear
or
submarine.
you might build one for a neighborhood of a city or something like that. So you wouldn't build one. It's not this monolithic idea of we build the huge one out in the middle of nowhere, and then that's susceptible to like tsunamis and earthquakes. But you build smaller ones, and the risks are actually much smaller than with the big ones because you can't get these massive runaways. But anyway, loads of big techs are now signing energy delivery contracts for the quite near future with nuclear power plants that are being built now. So this is all like, about to change again. And like, it then depends on what your opinion about uranium is. But do you think that's clean or not? Because you have to dig it out of the ground in a way that's not great.
Well,
for the
it's
environment.
clean unless you're in a
Yeah.
war.
Yeah. But also you have to dig it out of the ground, and that's a bit messed up. But yeah, so there's lots of stuff with uranium, and then as you say, it can be enriched into other things. So yeah, there's a lot there. And like I'm still actually picking away at all of this stuff. I appreciate the Skull of Satoshi, the Greenpeace thing. I think it's actually beautiful. And just a reminder that me and the collective that I work with in Berlin, we wrote a satirical theatre production about proof of work. And some of the opinions in that were the opinions that the Greenpeace people seem to be holding. So like, as usual, life imitates art.
Yep.
Yeah, change the code. It was a pretty naive campaign on Greenpeace's part. But the thing is with Greenpeace, you have to. I know they seem like one big organization, but they are pretty fractured rabble of activists. And there was definitely opposition when they came out with that campaign from within Greenpeace. In fact, so we have allies like in Greenpeace. Bitcoin has allies. We have allies. We have allies. We have allies in Extinction Rebellion, which is far more hardcore than Greenpeace. And more so, they're getting access to all the evidence and research that's been done that Bitcoin does, in fact, incentivize renewables. I'm not saying that, personally, I think a lot of the incentives for renewables are also incentives for dirty energy sources, but particularly with hydro, some of the stuff which, oh crikey, what's the name of it? Oh, the African, where they're setting up with hydropower plants, and then gridless, particularly the work that Gridless is doing, where they have these small hydro plants which are servicing, a town, and they're relatively poorly maintained hydro plants, and they're going in and they're saying, right, we're going to up your hydro plant, we're going to increase its capacity to the point where it'll now power 3 towns instead of 1, but with the excess, we're going to mine Bitcoin, and that's a very successful, or has been a very successful initiative. So there's a lot of great work which is being done in renewables. And ultimately, like miners, they're not these like cypherpunk crypto anarchists, these big operations, which if they are using dirty energy sources to mine Bitcoin, they can and will be regulated. Like look what happened in China a few years ago. All the mining was in China, and it was producing all these horrible emissions from mining using these coal plants, and then all these and then the Chinese just shut it down and said no more mining in China. So it does have, if you start mining using dirty energy sources, it does have enough of an impact on the local community of that country to kick the governments into action to start regulating some of these big miners. But yeah, I was very skeptical when it came to renewables and mining, but and I actually started a Telegram group, Bitcoin Environmentalists, and there's a couple of hundred people in there now, and I've been completely turned, and now I'm very optimistic for Bitcoin incentivizing renewables. And actually, from Greenpeace and from Extinction Rebellion's point of view, for those who kind of get some of the arguments for using Bitcoin to incentivize the use of renewables, they see it as a radical market force, which can, from their point of view, and from my point of view as well, climate is something humanity desperately needs to tackle. And the reality is that governments are utterly failing at it. Look, Trump's a classic example, pulling out of the Paris Agreement in 2020, which is absolutely horrific. This is a very important agreement between lots of countries, but governments can't be trusted. They talk the talk, but it's, as Greta said, it's more blah, blah, blah. And actually using some of these like radical market forces, such as Bitcoin mining, could be a way to really ramp up use of renewables. So yeah, I'm pretty pretty positive over the whole thing, and well done for the tweet, because it was such a well-researched tweet, and they clearly done the legwork to reach out to Greenpeace and those involved in Greenpeace and get the inside scoop, which is great to hear.
Well, and what I think, Ben, is one of the ideas on this for a long time is it's easier to build a miner than to build a battery. So if we have all these hydroelectric plants that have excess energy that they're not using,
baseload and storage of electricity is the issue. So a lot of people think solar, but then you need a whole load of batteries, and batteries are a pain in the ass. So when it comes to having like a regular baseload, water's easy. You can capture it in a dam, and then you can release it at a slow, steady rate. And if you're in an area where it rains a lot, like it's a pretty, but what does dip is the grid, or wherever they're connected to, whatever power they're feeding into. Demand for electricity does dip, and that's where it could just be used as a way of making, like with gridless, of making some of these smaller hydro operations profitable, and like profitable ventures, as opposed to necessary things which don't really make any money. But yeah, I think hydro really is the one when it comes to, and the geothermal stuff, which Josh mentioned earlier, like in places like Iceland, it's just limitless energy. And like you say, Thomas, you're locking up value as
Everywhere.
long as you can.
Geothermal can be absolutely everywhere. You just need to dig deeper.
Yeah.
and we can plug all that into Bitcoin mining. It'll be much better. Let's keep moving, but let's look at the Greenpeace skull one more time and remember what a great job they did with their anti-Bitcoin propaganda. It's also a great time for you to
I just want
go ahead
to
and
say
see.
real quick. A friend of mine that came to the theatre production that we made critiquing attitudes around proof of work knows the artist that made the skull of Satoshi and said that they are sound. So this idea of them coming out and saying, like, arguing in favor of nuance is corroborated by like the real networks of real people.
Well, and it is really a nice piece if you look at it. It looks like it's made up of old computer parts, old computer wires. It's got cool lighting. I don't know about the nuclear power plants on top, but again, he was paid. It was a commission, not his fault. But it's also a great time for you to push the like button for the show. We're having a like drive this week. We're trying to get 50 likes on the show. Usually we get about 45. So that means about 5 of you who usually do nothing would have to push the like button. So give that a try. Check out worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got 3,773 videos and more that you can watch at worldcryptonetwork.com. Moving on to issue 3. Gemini Earn users receive $2.8 billion of their digital assets in kind, a 232% recovery. We hardly ever say anything nice about these platforms where you can leave your Bitcoin behind for other people to lend it out and hope that it'll be there with interest later. Hope, hope, hope. But Tyler and Cameron Winklevi, the CEO and president of Gemini Earn, have done the right thing and are giving the money back to the users. This hardly ever happens, so we do want to celebrate it and celebrate all the people who are getting their money back now and the Winklevi for giving it to them. Ben Ark, what do you think about Gemini Earn returning assets to the people?
I'm sorry, Thomas. I read. Can you go to somebody else on? I'm going to defer to another panel member because I didn't actually catch this article.
Let's go to Wasim. It says that 97% of digital assets owed to earned users will return $1 billion more than when they halted withdrawals, and that it's a 232% recovery from when they halted withdrawals. Of course, this is all from their blog and their webpage that they wrote themselves, so we can trust that. What do you think, Wasim?
Well, I mean, all these figures are probably measured from the absolute like bottom of the trash can of the market. And this is like basically tracking the recovery of that. We've already seen stories, which you may have discussed on this program other times, around that. For example, the creditors of FTX now being due more than 100% of what they had at the time that the exchange went down. And so this is another, example of like bizarro land crypto stuff, where because of the market turning around, and things being denominated in different currencies, you kind of blink and then you look again, a bit like the They Live guy behind me. And then all of a sudden, there's a different reality in front of you. What I don't know about in this story, maybe one of the gang could say, is exactly where this money came from. Is it due to the underlying assets and they sold them and recovered the value? Did the Winklevi just pay it off because they made loads of money on their Bitcoin? I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure it exactly says at this point. I do assume that the Winklevi made so much money off of their adventures in crypto that as a gesture of goodwill and an attempt to save their business, it makes sense to pay these people back. Josh Shigala, what do you think? They're getting their money back.
Wasim said it right. This is what happens when the market corrects, and you can always stem it from time of loss. So you could say that no one in Mount Gox lost any money, except if you were actually wanting to hodl, then you've lost a hell of a lot of money. So if you convert it into the fiat losses right in that moment, but actually Bitcoiners they don't think in fiat amount. Yeah, they've got that number on their phone and the number go up to that, but actually the number that you want is Bitcoin go up. That's why you put it into the earn program in the first place, because you want more Bitcoin. You don't want more, if you started off with 1, you want 1.1 afterwards. You don't want 0.2, but that's worth the same amount as when you put it in there. So, so it's a bit of a, I mean, if it was Trump, he'd be put in jail for it because it's an accounting thing. But it is true, I guess. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that don't use these centralized things. This is the amazing thing about DeFi. DeFi allows you to earn interest. There's plenty of lending markets out there. In the standard, we don't have lenders. That's why we can do 0% interest, because people actually mint against their crypto holdings or against their wrapped Bitcoin. But you want to stay away from centralized authorities that are lending out their crypto. The reason why is you get more returns using automated market makers indexes to earn a yield. I don't know how Gemini made their yield. What are they doing with your money? Are they putting it there? Are they lending it? Are they buying bonds with it? Who knows? In a DEX, I know exactly what's happening. You're placing your liquidity into an automated market maker, which is predetermined, coded. Anyone can see it's a free and open source, and you can see exactly what is happening with your money. It's being used as liquidity on a DEX, so you know where the yield is coming from. And so this is what for me, DEXs are the most cypherpunk thing you can get outside of Bitcoin itself, and we should all be celebrating the fact that DEXs are a thing. Because a normal order book cannot function. It's too computationally heavy. So a DEX is absolutely phenomenal, and these liquidity pools are a phenomenal way of earning a yield. And so if you do want to earn a yield, there are ways to do it without giving up your private keys. And do it. Have a go.
I am being told we have an inside source about how Earn makes their yield. It's sports gambling. Yes, it's sports gambling. They took the under. But I do want to celebrate for a minute here, like you guys are saying, the magic of crypto. Even if they were underwater and they're only paying them back at the USD value, these are dead companies that came back to life, presumably because of some leftover Ethereum or something on the books that turned out to be worth a lot more. And I just think it's really fun when this happened, like when Curio Cards, my startup, came back to life, and everyone was like, all of a sudden, these collectibles you made are valuable. And it just shocks everybody. Nobody had any shares in my company or any bets on it doing well in the end. But just like the Earn program, somehow it pulled out a win. But let's keep going here. Let's move on to issue 4. Issue 4, Caitlyn Jenner says she was scammed by alleged hacker Sahil Arora following the Jenner token release. And this is where things get fun with crypto. I don't know the details, but apparently on Solana for about $10, you can print up your own coin. And once you've printed up, say, 100,000 of your own coin, if you sell one of these for $1, it means that your coin now has a market capitalization of $100,000. If you had even more tokens or sold them for even more than $1, you could make millions. And apparently people are running up dog coins and all kinds of other nonsense. And now celebrities like Caitlyn Jenner are getting involved. The fun part about this story is before they had their successful Jenner token launch, they had another token launch where the alleged hacker took them for $350,000. So it's getting exciting over there. Meanwhile, Iggy Azalea, pop star, is getting involved in crypto and crypto Twitter, and also making her own meme coin to make herself millions of dollars if you trust that she won't sell. I'm sure everything will be fine. Wasim Al-Sindi, what do you think about the celebrities and their wonderful, wonderful meme coins?
There is nothing new under the sun, Thomas and friends. Feels like just yesterday that we were probably sitting around here talking about Paris Hilton launching an ICO in 2017, or, Dennis Rodman endorsing Potcoin in 2016 or whatever that was. So I feel like, the incentives are always there. This one was just really bizarre and half-baked. Watching it happen as people were sending you the tweets, being like, what's this? This looks weird. And then reading this, the story that we're discussing, then you start to realize that, I forget sometimes, I think maybe we all forget, because we've been looking at these things and working with them for so long, that when you're new to them, you don't know anything about these things. And I always forget that, the level of knowledge that you're entering with is very small. And so when people find this thing and then somebody else kind of, takes advantage of them, yeah, it's sad. But then, you're a celebrity. Surely lots of people are trying to take advantage of you, your image, your likeness for marketing stuff. So I feel like maybe this is like a gullibility detector or something. I don't know. But reading this article is amazing. This person launched 5 meme coins in a week or something like that. Quite, impressive.
Well, and like you're saying, Wasim, when they first saw the links on their Twitter account, they thought they might have been hacked. You could very easily hack them, put in a link to this pump.fun website where I guess they make up these tokens and, take the person's money, confuse their audience, take a lot of their audience's money. But as it turned out, no, they'd hacked themselves. They'd done them to themselves. And as Wasim was saying, we had Floyd Mayweather, we had Paris Hilton, we had other people supporting ICOs, promoting them, and they all got in trouble for promoting illegal securities and for putting their audience at risk. It's just very ingenuine of them. It's very desperate to try to make this money off their audience. Obviously, Caitlyn Jenner doesn't have much of a career right now. Iggy Azalea is still an active pop star doing concerts and stuff. They could still make money the old-fashioned way. Josh Shigala, what do you think about the explosion of meme coins and now celebrity meme coins?
Not now, like Wasim mentioned, it's not new. We all remember Kanye coin right at the beginning, back in the day, and he then sued to try and stop it, because he didn't even realize he was actually it was history in the making, sort of, where you get these memes going. But I think they're fun. It is part of the market. I'm not a Bitcoin monopolist. I just think it's that they're, now that we have rare digital assets, you can basically bet on a cultural meme. You can bet on a concept, on a joke, on the fact that something will move through society in a viral way. You could never really bet on that. And so it's interesting. I don't like calling everything a scam that is outside of Bitcoin, because I think it lowers the meaning of scam, which is a very, very important word, because there are absolutely scam. I'm not saying that there aren't meme coins out there that aren't scams. There absolutely is. But there are also meme coins that are like, hey, we really think this is funny, or this is a culturally important thing. I don't know, some some concept, and you know, you can buy some of that and say, hey, now I'm part of this thing, and it'll go up. And but no one, you must know that you're pretty much burning your money if you're buying this stuff, because it'll go up, it'll go down, and if you can get rid of it at the right time and give your bag to someone else that will lose it, then all the power to you. But yeah, that's the thing. Like they are just a bunch of things that you can bet on, just like horses, just like anything else. They are bets in a market of random crap, and this will always be there. They will always be there. You'll have major cryptos like Bitcoin, and solid projects, very serious projects that are there to undermine central banking. And then there is a whole circus of clown shows that are bubbling away that you can, you know, try to wager on, just like any casino. I mean, it's just a casino, except no regulations. So, and there are absolute scams in there. You know, there's like people taking brands and saying, "Hey, now this is the real." I don't know, whatever celebrity, pick a celebrity. And funnily enough, Max Kaiser originally, where he got his original money from, was inventing the celebrity stock market, where you could bet on a celebrity, and it was a stock exchange where you could basically buy shares in a celebrity, and if they did well, their stock would go well. It wasn't tied to anything. It wasn't like you'll get dividends on their next movie intake. It was just you were buying the celebrity, and it was the bet on a meme. So it is what it is, and I think it's quite fun. I think it's cool that it exists now, and it is what it is.
Quite fun. I don't know. It's like we always say, it's about collectibles, and a collectible is a unique thing that's worth what someone will pay you. Sometimes you have a Beanie Baby and it's really valuable. Other times you don't. What's important to note about these is, versus something like Bitcoin or an Ethereum, where people are just trading them kind of blindly like stocks, there's lots of buyers waiting to take that Bitcoin off your hand. If you get a Iggy Azalea collectible number 15, maybe there's lots of buyers today, maybe not tomorrow. You don't know. And that's where it comes into these things being collectibles, where, like Josh saying, if you get it at the right time, sell it at the right time, you could be singing the praises. What a great investment it was for you. But for someone else, it could be, buy it for $100, it's worth $1, and I held it for 50 years. And that's a collectible. So sometimes it doesn't work out. Ben Ark, what do you think about the celebrities? They're here and they're printing meme coins. Hooray.
Yeah, it does feel like a throwback, like they haven't really learned. We need some of these like celeb securities, these security producing celebrities to bunk up with Ross, you know, and we need a couple of them to go to jail for issuing unlicensed securities. I think that probably will happen at some point, and it should scare a lot of them off. In saying that, I do agree with Josh that there's definitely something there to being able to like have something, to buy into something, which, so say if you find some, I don't know, some YouTube or whatever, and you think they're going to be really successful, to maybe like an NFT type thing or some ordinal shit, I don't know, and you buy it because as a kind of badge, you know, I was here early, I have this thing, and it's the price of this thing, this collectible, is going to be somewhat tracked to the rise of this, you know, person in the public arena. There's definitely something there. And I think that's what Max Kaiser tried to do, because it was Maxcoin, I think, was probably the first like cryptocurrency thing pegged, which was kind of like part of a community, which was, you know, part of the people who would listen and watch Max Kaiser. And he got a lot of pushback for it later on, because obviously it dumped to nothing. And I think that he did make a little bit of money on it. But yeah, there is something there. I can't imagine that it's these meme coin celebrity coins. I think it's probably something a bit more palpable, like some sort of badge, you know, which has some sort of NFT ordinal badge thing or something. Anyway, I think that's kind of interesting. More and more in the Nostr community, like, we're exploring the idea of badges, you know, to say if you go to a conference or something, you can get a badge and then you can have it and attached to your Nostr profile. So there's something there. There's something there for it. The problem is we've just made a lot of very easy tools to build this stuff, and you have some. I mean, if you're just some random person, famous person, not very technical, and And then at some fancy schmancy party, you meet someone who looks like a hacker, and they look all, they look the part, and they start some crypto bro, he's got like fucking, I don't know, funny rimmed glasses and some party, and they start saying a bunch of techno babble at you, and you think, wow, this guy's a genius, and they tell you about how you can make some cryptocurrency, and it's gonna, get you more followers, and I can see it as social engineering, isn't it? Like it's the easiest way to hack stuff is not, to actually brute force machines, is to socially engineer, and that's all they're doing, is they're finding a way in, because those sorts of crypto bro hacker types, they have this assumption that for some reason they deserve money with very little effort, and I think it's probably a symptom of the world or industry which a bunch of people have got very wealthy very easily from, and I think a bunch of them just they convince themselves that maybe they're not doing harm, but then in the back of their minds they know they're getting a quick buck and this thing's going to crash to nothing, and the person they're attaching it to could probably end up in jail for being part of and promoting some unlicensed security. So yeah, we probably just need some examples of people like Kanye West and this Australian singer girl and people like that to go to prison. I think with this Australian singer, that I think she has 20% of the coins or something, and she was saying that she only had like 5% or a couple of percent, but she actually has 20%. So yeah, it's the same thing repeated. Going to prison to this I'm advocating people going to prison, but there we are.
Yeah,
But
these games
there
companies,
is
they need to
something
go
there.
to prison as well for issuing, in-game gold tokens that
Right.
people are mining.
Yeah, but they're not securities you can like trade on the open market. I mean, like because they did used to be in like these massive role-playing games. It used to be that you could like trade a lot of this stuff on open markets, and they still kind of shut that down. They don't want secondary markets because then you end up with sweat farms in some backward country filled with children grinding on World of Warcraft to get gold. And that's interesting, because I think that's that often we want. It makes a lot of sense that like some of those things, in-game items, have like a transferable value, and you can own it through public key cryptography and the technology set which we have. But gaming companies hate that idea for that reason, because they don't want secondary markets.
Well, exactly. It makes sense for the users to own those assets, but it doesn't make sense for the game company to go through all that trouble so that you can get rich off of the sword that was in their company. They would much rather sell that sword themselves, get 10% of it. Wasim, did you have more on this?
Yeah, because we came on to like basic memes and capital. And I've got a little bit around the work of Jean Baudrillard from the later end of his work, Symbolic Exchange and Death. And like Baudrillard's famous for the simulacrum. And like if you haven't ever read a book, maybe you've seen The Matrix, and that's also that concept. But in Symbolic Exchange and Death, Baudrillard's talking about like kind of a 3-stage processing of like materials. And so you have the kind of raw commodity, and then it's acted on by labor to make that kind of whatever refined commodity. And then the last step is kind of it move into a semiotic domain. You create kind of the code of the product rather than the product itself. And so he was basically talking about memes as well in the second half of the 20th century. And so he's kind of talking about this kind of denigration, or this like move down this abstraction ladder towards us just trading kind of meaningless signals, because like labor and has become abstracted to the point where we can't really see. Like, does anybody really care anymore? Like, dog with hat, is that backed by? Is there a treasury? Is there a consensus mechanism? Nobody cares anymore. And just by the way, just to rankle you all, there is a coin I think on Solana called Bitcoin. And it's like dollar and then BITCOIN, so they write it out. So now you can get like Bitcoin on Solana or whatever.
Sounds like an exciting future, yes. And it will be interesting when you can take all of your different social media. You got like a reward for being in a bar, you got a reward for going here, you got a participation award, package them all up and then trade them for another meme or another coin. And somebody else is presumably collecting those, trying to get a full set of thank you cards from this or thank you cards from that. I do think it's worth noting, even though I don't know very much about Iggy Azalea or Caitlyn Jenner, and if they're going to do a good job with their community, but it's all about the person running it. If this is a short-term money grab and they're just trying to get your money, that's all they're going to get. That's all you're going to get. But if the person is really focused on making a community, they could do anything with these. Like Ben was saying, they could drop NFTs on you. They could reward you with more NFTs. You could go to an event, get another NFT, trade that for Iggy Azalea dollars. She could have a whole economy going and a really good marketing machine for her product. It would tell you all about when the new album comes out. It would tell you all about when the new concert comes out. You could even collect an NFT of the concert announcement. Just anything for your fans. Sell them, which is why I'm really glad that my band has already broken up and REM will never sell any meme coins or any of this stuff, and I won't have to think about buying it. But if you were a diehard fan and this was your Michael Jackson or your whatever your favorite band was, you might want to buy these things, and not for just a monetary reason, but just for like I own part of Iggy coin. I own part of my band. I'm a contributor.
I don't think it should be like a coin, like like we were saying that it should be like a image, like an NFT or something like that. It should be something more palpable rather than just coins. Like I don't know.
A coin's not that different from an NFT. If you think of like a quarter and it has a person's face on it, we do a run of 2,500 of them, and then we put somebody else's face on the quarter and do 2,500 of them, and maybe we do 500 of the next one. It does kind of bring us back to this experimentation idea where all of the fun economic ideas are back here again. What if Iggy did, 5 million coins? Is that too many? What if she did 100? What if she did 10? And you get to stay over at her house one weekend a year if you own one of the 10 coins. There's all kinds of ways for them to add value to this.
We stay at Neverland.
Yeah, we are conditioned after thousands of years of having like cultural association to coinage. I think as Bitcoiners, we're very naive on this fact because we have a cultural association to Bitcoin. So we're like, okay, great, we want to use this thing. Whereas other people, they see in the printed currency, they see a reflection upon the community in which they live and they have for a very long time. And it can be oppressive, it can be not oppressive. My favorite example of this was the Lightning Hack Day in Istanbul. And it was that the drummer guy, with the cat, he was there. And then he was like trolling us because we paid for him to come to this conference, and we paid for him to do a set on his drums. And at some point, someone shouted, he said, I love Turkey. And then someone shouted, do you love Bitcoin? And he went, no, I hate Bitcoin. I love the Turkish lira because I am Turkish. And I'm thinking it's kind of, there's something there. There's some, like we have been conditioned to associate culturally with currency and with money. And as Bitcoiners, we can associate with Bitcoin, but a lot of people can't associate with Bitcoin. I think that's hard for them to see this money, which they have no cultural association with, or maybe they don't like some of the things which they identify the Bitcoin culture, the broader Bitcoin culture. So yeah, it does make sense that this within a community of fans of a band or whoever, that they could issue something which has that property, that cultural association which they enjoy.
Well, and these NFTs or tokens can also be used for access. If you have 1,000 tokens in your wallet, you get to come into the bar. You get to come into a club. If you have 10,000 tokens in your wallet, you get to go to the VIP room. And again, I'm going to remind everyone of the Vonnegut book that I like that no one else seemed to like. It was called Slapstick or Lonesome No More. And what Vonnegut talked about is how people are really just lonesome. Like they moved from the country to the city, they lost touch with all their cousins, and now they just simply don't have enough friends. So what he does is he assigns everyone a random middle name like Johnson 52. And now you are a cousin with anyone else who's a Johnson, you're a cousin with anybody who's a 52, and you're a family member of any of the Johnson 52s. And they start setting up clubs and they start taking care of each other. And they find out, just like in the real world, some of your family members are great and really supportive and helpful, and some of them are jerks and you got to cut them out. So it's much the same thing, but now they have friends. Now they have cousins. Now they have family. And maybe this could be done by having a cool coin in your wallet. You have this NFT, it means that you're family. You come in inside, have a drink. You don't have that coin, you're not family. You just stay outside. but we're just seeing the beginning of this. And I don't know that Iggy coin or Jenner coin or whatever it is going to be the one. But you're part of a grand experiment, even if you are just losing your money and wasting your time. But we're running out of time.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Ben.
What's nice about Noster badges? I'm going to go about Noster badges again. What's quite nice about Noster badges, if when you earn them, clients display them in your Noster profile. People can access them on your Noster profile, and it's a bit like GitHub badges. Like I wear my GitHub badges with pride. Yeah. So like, I think there's that too. I think being able to have some of these things in your social media client, and sort of wear them as you would a badge, would be nice too.
I think GitHub's also been really successful with their calendar feature. I'm not a programmer myself right now, but if you are, you have that little chart that says you coded on this day, you coded this much on that day, and if you're a really hardcore programmer, you have a very filled up chart. So I think that builds a social score and all kinds of things. But we're running out of time, so let's go to predictions or story of the week. Wasim, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Oh, I don't have a story. Okay, prediction. My prediction is that the Mt. Gox sell-off will have an impact on Bitcoin. So a bunch of Mt. Gox creditors received their Bitcoins or they're receiving them now. And so there'll be like selling pressure.
That's another one where we've been waiting for this avalanche for so long that I'm just tired of it. I'm like, go ahead, let the avalanche fall on us. We'll see how it turns out. But it could very well happen. That's a good prediction. Josh Shigala, prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Yeah, a little while ago, I gave Max Kaiser a t-shirt, and he just tweeted, and this was a few years ago. He tweeted out that he's on his way to see President Nayib Bukele to wish him good luck at his inauguration. and it's my fucked banks t-shirt from Voltoro. So I was very happy to see that being put to good use and being sent to a president's inauguration. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Max. That's my story of the week.
Very cool. Classic t-shirt, and great to see Max wearing it. Ben Ark, prediction or story of the week? Go ahead.
That's my favorite t-shirt because it's like the common ground, which should be for all Bitcoiners, is fuck banks. I loved that t-shirt. When I first met you in the flesh, you were wearing that t-shirt, and I instantly thought, yeah, this is my dude right here. I like this man. It's such a great t-shirt. Yeah.
Thank you.
You should print more.
It's easy.
So for story of the week. So yeah, just ramping up for BTC Prague. I hope to see everybody there. It should be an amazing event. I think it's going to be the sort of conference of the year, really. It's a huge amount of people going and some great speakers. They have a Dev Hack Day the day before the conference, being organized by Pavel Stick from Satoshi Labs. He's doing an amazing job. And we're doing like 3 workshops. We have 2 Nostr hardware workshops. So we're going to be making Nostr IoT devices with people. We're going to be doing zap lamps, so it turns on when you get zapped. We're also doing a workshop on how to build an LMBits extension in an hour, and then also submit it as a paid extension. So people will actually pay you when they install the extension into LMBits, which is pretty funky. And then I'm also doing a keynote, which is amazing. So it's my first sort of non-LMBits Nostr keynote on a main stage. I've done at a conference, and I'm going to be talking about the Hegelian dialectic and why the tools of liberation are being built, and why more tools of liberation are being built. And I'm looking forward to doing that. It's only a 20-minute talk, but I'm quite excited about that. And then just hanging out with everybody in Prague. It should be an absolutely phenomenal event. But yeah, just grinding hard, getting all that stuff built and ready for it. We are also having a fundraise for projects, which need some sats in the Bitcoin space and in the Nostr space. So if anyone has any projects they're building and they want us to be part of the fundraise, we're going to be encouraging people to donate live on the day, and then we'll have like a ranking system so you can see the different projects as they get sats dribbling in. Yeah, just like DM me somewhere on that. But yeah, just super psyched for BTC Prague. Will be a good one.
That sounds great, Ben. Congrats on the keynote, BTC Prague. Everyone should check that out. Not much left in the show. Still a chance for you to give us a like and to join the 50 like club. We're going for 50 this week. And if you want to leave us a wave or a surfer emoji in the comments or in the chat there, join the WCN Surfers Club for making it to the end of the episode. You did it. Even longer than the battery on my laptop, which passed out almost immediately when I didn't plug the power in. So that was a fun middle of the show moment for me. But that's about it. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Thanks for Wasim for being our guest. And until next time, bye bye.
Bye.